the DT is important there. So there we go.
So now it's going.
So now it's moving along, which is cool. But it's not colliding, right?
Right.
It just goes straight through the ship. So if you go back to the step-by-step, there's some code that we can copy into there.
So, okay, so we made the blob move.
So we just did step 4.
And make it sticky.
Make it sticky.
So set VX blob to 0 and change VX to 50 so the rocket moves. And then we want to mess with this code at the end.
So copy that to clipboard.
Was that after display, did it say?
Yeah, after display.
Okay.
The only reason it needs to be after display is because it has the word collision in it. And
okay, so because we want that to appear at the correct time.
But here's the problem: is that it says if some variable is less than some other variable, then trigger this if statement.
That's probably going to crash, isn't it? Because it's not even. Yeah, we have to figure out what these are.
Right. So there's some advice on what to do in the step-by-step. So that code was not meant to just sort of jump out and working. But basically, we kind of have to think about this statement. And so how do we know if the rocket is colliding with the blob?
So if we look at the x-coordinates, the x-coordinate of the rocket is going to be within the blob. So if the x-coordinate of the blob is the center, then it's going to be within the radius.
Yeah, so x is the center of the rocket, x blob is the center of the blob, and so if those two things are, if the difference between those two things is less than the radius, then they've collided. And so all we got to do is sort of take these math equations, put it into the code, and a big hint to do that is this absolute value.
X blob is less than the radius of the blob. Okay, so the radius of the blob, that's pretty easy, right? Because that's just radius blob.
Yep, so radius blob is defined to be right there.
And then we have the absolute value of, what was that? X blob. So that was just X underscore blob. But it wasn't just X minus X blob, right? So we're comparing the ship's location to the blob's location. So it's not just X blob. Oh, it's just called X, okay. So hopefully that should work. Collision, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the step-by-step, it says to set the rocket to 50 and the blob to 0, but it seems to be working all right.
Same thing, they'll collide either way.
But why don't we just do that real quick just to prove that it works? So we've proven that the blob can collide with the ship. Let's show that the ship can collide with the blob, or at least the collision can happen if the ship is over here on the right. If the ship goes this way and collides with the left of that blob, left side of that blob, let's just make sure that works. So we want to set Vx equals 50 up here at the top.
Okay.
For the ship. I mean, it can be anything, but 50 gets it going
right.
quick.
And then
we want to set
Vx blob to 0.
We'll just see what happens.
Okay, yeah, so that'll run into it still.
So there you go. Now what we can actually do is, if you want to go back to the code real quick, I forgot about this, but I accidentally left something in that if statement that if we can just remove it, the thing will keep on going. So you see where it says no loop?
Oh, okay, so that ends. Oh, okay, because we want to keep being able to collide and things. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we took out this no loop thing, let's go ahead and hit play, see what happens. Okay?
Okay.
So now they collide, and then they drift together, but there's something wrong with this collision. Do you see what it is?
So they're moving at the same speed, so the blob's bigger, and some of the energy should have been used up when it got transferred to the blob, so they shouldn't be going quite as fast.